Hi, my name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com and the Options Insider Radio Network. And today I'm here to talk to you about the importance of really understanding the underlying mechanics of the products you trade, particularly when you're trading options upon them. We saw a glaring example of this last week when SPY, the popular S&P 500 ETF, went ex-dividend on the same day as options expiration. What we saw was that announcement, even though SPY is very widely traded, very widely held, that dividend announcement, as it always does, tends to come as a shock to a lot of people who aren't prepared for it. And if you're an options trader, particularly a SPY options trader, particularly a SPY call options trader to be very specific, then this announcement could have had costly or potentially even disastrous ramifications for you and your trading position. So let's look at a few ways that a surprise dividend could impact you as an options trader, maybe some ways we could plan for it in the future. So let's look at the long side first, because that is typically where a lot of the dividend impact comes to play. Now, if you were long SPY options on Friday and you were unaware that it was also ex-dividend day, then you could have potentially left a lot of money on the table. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, remember, options owners don't receive dividend payments. They're only paid to the shareholders of the stock. So if you want to collect that dividend, you will have to become a shareholder of the stock, which means you have to exercise your options and buy the stock at the strike price of your options. Now, if you didn't know that dividend was coming and it was ex-dividend day on Friday, then you could have potentially been unaware of this development, and depending on the size of your call options position, you could have left a substantially large amount of money just sitting there on the table. Every dividend cycle for SPY, we see somewhere around 10% of the call holders forget this and simply forget to exercise their calls, or they're unaware that they have that option. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to do this, and certainly you don't want to be among the 10% of people who actually forget this and leave all that money on the table every time SPY announces a dividend. Now let's flip it to the short side of the equation. And this is where things become potentially more dangerous and perhaps even disastrous. Now, remember, SPY went ex-dividend on Friday, but it was also options expiration day. Now, the combination of these two things really exacerbated the risks to a dramatic degree. Now, let's look at an example of why being short call options on Friday could have potentially been very dangerous, particularly in the at-the-money and very near at-the-money strikes, where things become a little bit more nebulous around expiration day and around dividend day as well. Because depending on the size of the dividend that people are looking to collect, even those very near at the money options and near out of the money options could become potential targets for assignment risk, which is, remember, the long call holders are looking to exercise their options and collect the dividend. So you, being the short call writer, are now facing a much higher level of assignment risk on those short calls. So on Friday, SPY closed at 145.87. So let's say you were short 10 of the September 146 calls. And typically on a typical expiration Friday, those calls would have expired worthless, so you would have assumed they would expire worthless, and you would assume that you'd wake up on Monday morning flat with no residual SPY position, ready to trade again for a new week. Now, however, in this case, remember, there was also a 78-cent dividend on the table, so those very near at the money calls, like the 146 calls, suddenly became a very, very viable candidate for exercise, and you, being short those calls, faced a significant assignment risk. So now, instead of going home flat and waking up flat on Monday morning, you would have woken up potentially short 1,000 shares of SPY from the 146 price level. Now, you can see surely how if SPY gapped open on the Monday morning significantly higher, that would have been a potentially disastrous consequence for you being surprised and suddenly short 1,000 shares of SPY. So there we have it, both from the long side and the short side, how a surprise dividend could impact you as an options trader, as well as another repeat announcement that you really need to understand the underlying mechanics and the fundamentals of all the products that you trade options on, particularly some of these ETFs and ETPs and these structured products. So again, if you'd like to learn more about options or dividends or the impact dividends have on options, then by all means, surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio on iTunes or Stitcher. My name again was Mark Longo, and thanks for watching.